Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Super Paranormal Chronicles. Tonight, I've got somebody special. I have got Kevin Oddy. We've just been speaking about saying that correctly. For you people that are out there, you might know Kevin from a small little TV show called Haunted Discoveries, where he is a producer and an investigator. And then we'll get into what the rest of he does a little bit later. Kevin, thank you for your time and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that you were kind of told, sort of like, just answer this guy's email, will you?
They're like, you want to do this? I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
And that's how it all starts, isn't it? That's how you get your connections and sort of like, yeah, but just because like Brandon sent you, it doesn't mean that he's off the hook. Brandon, if you watch this, you're not off the hook, dude. Okay, so what I normally get people to do is to start at the very beginning. I know that we've just been talking about you spent time as a deputy, and you've served in a jail on the correct side of the bars, not on the wrong side. But if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the paranormal world, and then we'll take it from there.
Oh gosh. So yeah, I grew up in Southeast Missouri. And so I remember when I was little, we'd spend a lot of time, just driving gravel roads, telling ghost stories, stuff like that. So it's always kind of been an interest to me. And I think one of the TV shows that kind of really got me into a lot of the unexplained stuff was the original Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. That and the Time Life Mystic Places books, like those commercials. I actually still have some of them books. So I really got into stuff then. And it was always like, let's go around, let's just look, see what we can find. Let's hit gravel roads, tell ghost stories. I used to do that with mom and dad sitting in the back seat. We just go driving around gravel and stuff. And then when I was working for the sheriff's department, I started doing some side work for a private investigator in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And him and his wife had a team there. And we got to talking about it one day. And he's like, well, why don't you come to one of our meetings? So I did that. And he's like, well, we're going to go to this house my brother has up in Louisiana, Missouri, which is, I think it was just north of St. Louis. He's like, we're going to go spend the weekend up there. You should come along. Let's go. I'm ready. We'll go. So we go up and we spend the weekend in this house. And the house was built in 1864-ish, maybe. It was originally, I believe, called the McCune College. It was the first co-ed college west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
And so we spent the weekend in that house, and that's when I caught my first EVP, and I was just kind of hooked on everything after that. So I kind of joined their group. We started going around to different places in Missouri, Illinois, stuff like that. And then in 2009, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was looking for teams out there, and I talked to a few people, and I hit up Brandon, which we didn't really connect at first because he lived, I believe, in Ventura, which was a couple hours from LA. And so we talked online a little bit. Then I actually got to meet him at an event at Linda Vista Hospital in LA. And we just kind of stayed friends ever since. We hit a couple investigations together. We hit the Queen Mary and stuff like that. And then in 2018, when I moved to Kentucky, I did some movies here. And then I was talking to the people I work with, and then it's like, hey, I got this guy, he does some documentary stuff. Said, you guys are kind of into the paranormal. Why don't you let us put together a series? And it kind of all took off from there.
And it really sounds like it was just like everything kind of fell at your feet. And it's sort of like here. And it's so rare for that to happen because, nowadays there's so many paranormal teams. So they literally they're like police officers hiding. They all come up like out of nowhere. So, and there's so many of them, and everybody wants to be on TV. But that's all good and well. However, a lot of the stuff you get, it's okay. Yeah, great having a TV show because you guys show things the right way of how to do stuff. Yeah,
and I think the biggest thing that I really like and appreciate about our show is between myself, Brandon, Mustafa, and Craig, everything from pre-production through post is done in-house, kind of through the four of us. You have a lot of the other shows where you have your talent that comes in, they film, they leave, the show goes off to somebody else to edit, somebody else to story produce. Ours isn't like that. We do everything. So before we start, even a couple months in advance, we're reaching out to locations, seeing where we can lock in. I'm building the schedule. Mustafa's kind of writing the it's non-scripted, but we'll do like a Zoom call with all the locations we lock in ahead of time, just to kind of get the story of the place. What's the hot spots, what's the stories, what's going on there, and that kind of stuff. And we'll just kind of make bullet points based off of that, kind of what we want to hit. And a lot of times that'll all change once we get to a location. You may talk about this and this and this on a Zoom, and then you get there and you're like, oh yeah, we forgot about this here, and then it opens up a whole nother can of worms that takes you a whole different direction.
Yeah,
But with Brandon also being the editor, and being there and kind of showrunning everything, he already has in his mind when he gets to the edit how things are going to fall into place and kind of what we have and stuff like that. And so it makes it a lot easier to put together. And we put together how we want people to see it, not how somebody that doesn't really care about the project and is just doing it for a paycheck wants to put it out.
yeah, yeah. And it is so similar how your team is and how we are, because we've got a guy who is in the film industry in Ottawa here. So yeah, he's our editor. So he's the one that actually puts everything together. And he says it takes so long
Mm-hmm.
to do all that. People think that it's like clicking your fingers and it's done. But for like 15 minutes can take a good 2 or 3 or 4 hours of editing to get it just right. So
like,
are you actually involved in that as well, the editing part of it, or?
No, Brandon does the editing. The only thing I do on the post side, really, besides like wrapping out, because I handle all the financials, I handle the expense reports, I handle all the tracking, I handle the budget and stuff like that. But I'll also sit and go through every piece of footage from each control camera from each location. And then I'll make notes off of those for Brandon for the edit.
And
so I'll go through each one. I'll be like, oh, here's the time code for when this happens. Or, nobody's in this room at this time or in this house. Okay, I think we picked up a voice here. What do you think? And I'll send him the time codes for everything on that clip. That way when he uploads it, he can just go through and see what there is and see how that cuts in together.
Yeah. And that part of reviewing can be so tedious at times.
And so time consuming.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to do it like real time, second by second.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't understand that. We've got loads of evidence going back for the last year that we still haven't reviewed because there's so much of it. And you can only there's only so much before you lose your mind, right?
Well, you figure, a 4 or 5 hour investigation times a minimum of 3, 4, 5 cameras times 12 locations. That's a lot of hours of footage just to sit there and watch a screen.
Yeah.
So we go through every single one because, I don't want to miss anything. And, if we have something, we want to make sure it gets out there. And
so when you started doing the filming, because obviously you've got that film career behind you as a second assistant director, is that correct?
I did. Well, when I was in LA, I graduated film school in LA in 2011, and I started getting work like before I graduated, like just a couple months into film school, I started getting work. And I started out as a production assistant, like most people, and then worked up to a coordinator, production manager, line producer. I did a couple movies where I was a second assistant director. But I did most of my stuff fell in the production manager and line producer roles.
So before you really got involved with Brandon and Haunted Discoveries, especially when you was a deputy, did you actually have anything that you could not explain on the road?
The only thing I really seen once, I don't want to say it was a UFO, but it's one night I couldn't explain because I was just sitting there late one night watching traffic. Well, there wasn't no traffic. I was just sitting there late one night on the side of the road. And it was a small county that I worked for, which was good in a way. And I was just watching this light go across the sky, and I was like, looks like a plane. But then it just stops, sits there for a minute, and then shoots back at a 45-degree angle, kind of away into space. And I just sat there for a minute, like, I just seen that. What What was that?
Yeah, and it's sort of like, I am not going back to the station. I am not telling these people. Because like, yeah, we both know that we've both been in like emergency services. So if we'd come out with something like that back at the station, you'd have got ridiculed. Something. So it'd be.
Now there was a retirement home that was in town that I know the city police got called there a couple times because residents would call and say, "Hey, I looked out the window. This kid was out there playing with the wind chimes in the tree, and when I opened the door, nobody was there." We've got that call. They got that call a couple times.
Wow.
From different people at different times, and they didn't know the other one's story. So, to me, it's like, okay, what did they see?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've told this a few times, but the only time that I've really had anything paranormal when I was a paramedic, I was doing a cardiac arrest, and I was working with a new guy, and he literally said that the spirit of the patient is stood behind me, telling me to stop. It's like, I'm sorry, what? It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's like that kind of really opened my eyes up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go into haunted discoveries, like I say, you've been a road deputy, which you just mentioned. You're also a certified advanced scuba diver with dry suit qualified as well. Have you ever had anything happen when you've been diving that you can't explain?
Not yet. We were actually, me and my friend went down to Florida a couple years ago, and we did a dive at this place called Jenny Springs. And while we were standing there, kind of in line waiting to get our tanks and stuff like that, I was just looking at this place online, and it's like, oh yeah, this is one of like the top 9 most haunted dive sites. And I was like, well, wait, what? And so I definitely want to go back. We got there a little late because I think we had another dive that morning. And so we got there, it wasn't too long. I think we had like an hour by the time we got our tanks till it like closed. So we didn't have a lot of time to go mess around there. So definitely a place I want to go back to. But I would love to go look more into that. Paranormal stuff. People say that, get by some of these shipwrecks and you can see like what looks like somebody else swimming, then you go around and like nobody's there. And so, I mean, we have some GoPros that are modified to full spectrum. I mean, what's that going to look like underwater if you would see something? How's that going to show up?
Yeah, that would be
pretty. A waterproof infrared illuminator, that will stay working when you're 60, 70, 80 feet underwater.
That sounds like a new project.
Yeah. That, and I like looking into USOs because you get a lot of stories about USOs now, even more and more.
So I expect results. Like, you've got a project. Let's get this moving. I expect to see results pretty soon.
That's a goal.
There we go. So obviously you're here because of Haunted Discoveries. It started 2022, 2023, and you were there from the very beginning.
Right.
So what was it like being on the set? You're doing a paranormal investigation, episode 1, scene 1 kind of thing. You're now this side of the camera rather than being behind the camera. So how is that entire experience for you, being one of the investigators and then actually searching for something of a paranormal nature?
I mean, when I lived out in LA, I got with a group out there and we did a lot of investigating, but we do all the recording ourselves and stuff like that. And, because of my law enforcement background, I was also cast in a couple different shows for Investigation Discovery out there playing a cop. And so I've been on the other side of the camera a few times. So that wasn't anything that was like new to me. But yeah, it was, I feel like I fell into it pretty fast. And, when you're doing it with some people that you've investigated with before, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. And, it's not like we were just all brought there. Nobody knew who anybody was.
Yeah.
We all kind of knew each other. And so that kind of made it a little bit easier as well to get the ball rolling on things.
Yeah, because I remember a TV show in the UK back in the 90s called, almost the same as yours, it's like Most Haunted, this was called. And it had a presenter with a film crew. But it didn't have any of the infrared or those kind of things like we have now. It was literally a camera crew going into, and the only way that I can really describe it was like a scream fest, because you'd get the random stones being thrown, but obviously you couldn't see where they're coming from, probably from behind the cameraman kind of thing. And it brought the paranormal world onto TV, but you did not get that impression that it was being taken as seriously as what it should be. Because from then to now, it's taken a lot more serious now than what it was in the late 90s, for example.
Yeah. And with ours, one thing I can, say that I can cross my heart, put my hand on the Bible, whatever you want to say. Everything you see in our episodes is 100% legit. As you see it is how it happened. Nothing's manipulated. Nothing's put in. As you see it how it unfolded.
And that's a good thing. And we kind of abide by that kind of rule as well, because it only takes one time for you to make something up and your reputation goes out the window completely. And I was at an investigation before Christmas, and we've got the similar kind of thing. We've got multiple cameras, and I literally felt like I'd got my hand held, which was a weird sensation. My immediate thought was, it's got to be a cobweb. But my hand was hanging out my pant pocket. My elbow was sticking out. So if it was a spider web or anything like that, it would have been taken out by my shoulder or my elbow. It wouldn't have hit my hand. But only I experienced that. And nobody can say it didn't happen, because I felt that sensation. So have you ever had anything like that happen to you that you can't really explain?
We were actually twice. There's one time we were at the old Lincoln Heights jail downtown LA, and it has high ceilings in it, and we're walking down this, I think it was a hallway upstairs, and I felt like the spiderweb thing on my head. And then when I thought about it for a second, because I turned around and looked and I didn't see anything, but I was like, wait a minute. I was walking forward, but in that feeling, it came from back to front, not front to back like I had walked into it. So it came over this way. And then the second time was at the Goldfield High School in Goldfield, Nevada. And we were standing there, and I just had my arms kind of crossed like this, and it just felt like something just kind of come up and rubbed my hand like that.
And it's like, we both experienced that, and our natural reaction is to go, did that just happen? And then you have to try, before you say it to anybody else that it's happened, you have to try to explain it to yourself what you've just experienced, and hang on, did I really feel that? And for those few seconds, it's a weird sensation to go, right, wait a minute, I just felt this. Did I really feel it? You did. But then you have to get your brain around it to think, I've just been stroked or I've just been touched, and it's like, okay. So let's go to, obviously, back into haunt.
I think somebody just knocked on my door.
Are we good? Or?
Yeah, we'll go ahead. I'll catch up in a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously you've done, I think it's 3 seasons of Haunted Discoveries now.
There's 4 seasons out, but we've actually filmed 7.
Oh, wow.
So we're still actually working on the edit for season 5. But yeah, we did 4 seasons of Haunted Discoveries. That's out. And we've done 4 seasons of Haunted Discoveries Family Spirits, which is our spinoff series.
Yes. Yeah. So I know that we were a bit behind in Canada. I think it was like a year later after it had been in the US before Canada released it. But yeah, it used to be the Friday night ritual. Okay, it's coming up to 9 p.m. Haunted Discoveries on. Yeah, let's get everything comfortable and then just watch the show. So I'm going to ask you a really difficult question now. Out of all the locations you've been to, and you've been to a lot now, I've just found out that you've recorded a lot more than what we actually know about. do any of them really stand out? And if so, why?
I tell you what, one really interesting one. It was actually a two-parter. Wanting to say it was in season 4, which I believe they have season 4 on Haunt TV's YouTube page.
Okay.
If you go to that, you should be able to pull it up. I think they have single episodes, and then I know they have one that's got like the complete season on it. But we did a little Utopian Society in Tennessee. It was in Rugby, Tennessee. And that's a place where we started asking about someone that hasn't really been mentioned there before. And over a couple of days of being there, it seemed like we actually had direct communication with this person, both in a house and some really interesting stuff by his grave in the cemetery. If you get a chance to watch that one, that one kind of threw us for a loop a little bit because not a lot of people talked about him. No one's ever tried to reach out to him. They didn't really know about the story a lot.
Oh, wow.
We kind of unfolded a lot of that when we got there. And that's when, we did all this research and then we learned this kind of when we get there and things kind of shoot off to a different direction.
Yeah. I know one that really stood out for me, and I think you've been back to the location more than once. I can't remember what building was, but you'd got, and I'm going to call them wrong now, the long length of lights, the name...
The Tripwire?
Escapes. Yeah, that's it. The name completely escaped me. And you were communicating with a lady from the property. And then there was like next season where you actually went back.
Hall Place Bed and Breakfast.
Yeah.
That was interesting. We even had one of her relatives on, that first episode as well.
Yeah.
And, when that episode came out, they were all blown away by it. But that one was a very heartfelt episode. That was in season 1, and we went back in season 2.
That's right. Yeah. And it's like you said at the beginning, nothing that you guys do is fake. It's all genuine.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody that doesn't know the ins and outs of paranormal investigation, to see that, it's just going to be like mind blowing to see that the interaction between that entity, your devices that we're using, and you people as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's completely different when you're there and when you're watching on TV, which I'm sure you know as well. Because watching it on TV, you don't get the chill bumps, you don't get that surge of energy that comes through with it.
Yeah, and it's weird like that because you can go to the most haunted location that people say is haunted and get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go to a place that, it could be a roadside cafe or something, and then you pick up on something that you least expect it. And that's the good thing about doing what we do. You never know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And, as they say, you expect the unexpected.
I mean, one of the most interesting catches we've had was in season 1, episode 2, when we did the Louisville Bourbon Inn and caught that shadow walking up that staircase.
Yes.
I mean, that one, we didn't even know we had that till like a couple days later. We had no idea because at that time the crew had already left to go back to the hotel. And it was just myself, Brandon, Mustafa, and another guy, Zach, that was there overnight. And that was one of the stories there. And Angelique, who we interviewed in that episode, she had that story for a long time. She said, yeah, I've seen, this shadow walk up that staircase before. And then when she's seen that, to validate what she had seen, because she had questioned herself for all these years, and that actually validated it. Because it's like, whenever we catch something like that and I go to review evidence, that's when kind of my law enforcement background kicks in, and I look at things like I'm trying to put together a court case. So it's like, okay, if a defense attorney watched this, what would they say to try to ruin my credibility? So they'd be like, oh, well, that was somebody walking up the stairs. No, this is what it looks like with somebody walking up the stairs. Well, you backlit somebody and that was their shadow going up the stairs. Okay, but to do that, I would have to have a matching staircase on the other side. And when you see the shadow, it is actually between the banister and the wall. It's actually on the steps. So yeah, that's not going to work either.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Last June, July, we went to a small hotel in New York State, Brer Lock Inn, in a small place called Casanova, and it's yeah, I highly recommend you go because it's so active for many different reasons. But in one of the bedrooms that we was in, we had a cabinet in a corner with a TV on, and as we're setting up the tripods, the door just creaks open. Nobody's near it, and we just all three of us just stopped and went, like, the obvious. That door just creaked open. But then we stopped what we were doing, and for the next 30, 40 minutes, we're trying to reenact what we've just experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a wooden latch on the door, and we tried to get it like the minuscule amount of connection was banging the sides, was jumping on the floor, and we could not get it to reopen no matter what we did. So the fact that people actually you try to debunk it by trying to replicate it and you can't, you then go, hang on a minute. I can't debunk this like I wanted to. So then you have to put your paranormal head on to go, well, maybe, just maybe, that was somebody trying to let us know that they were there.
Mm-hmm. Our other probably biggest one that I have zero explanation for, and it still drives me nuts to this day. I think it was season 3. I can't think of the episode number when we went to Harriman Hospital in Tennessee. I think the
The
episode was called
lights.
Angel
The
of Death.
lights.
That I have no idea. Unfortunately, I wasn't downstairs when that happened. I was on the fourth floor by myself. But I was down there whenever she unlocked that door and we went through there because that door was bicycle chained shut because there's black mold and stuff in there, so they don't let anybody in there.
Yeah.
But the way that shot through, and I think what gets me the most about it is you don't see it as much on the screen, but when you look at the handheld monitor that Brandon's holding, right before that happens, you actually see a shadow cross the frame and shoot down the hallway.
Wow.
And then about the time that it would go through that door is when that light comes through on the other side. And with the doors, you have the 2 doors there, you have the windows in each side, but where that shoots through at, it's got that circle right there, that circle of light. And it's like, what in the hell is that?
Yeah.
That's a solid door. Where is this circle of light coming from on this side when the light's emanating from this side?
Yeah.
And that's just still, I have zero explanation for that. I have.
As soon as that episode finished, I actually, not tweeted now, but I tweeted Brandon and went, my God, dude, those lights. And he went, I know, right? But it's stuff like that that is our bread and butter. That's what we look for. That's what if we can't explain something, it's absolutely great because it means what we're doing is the right thing. And I always explain to people that no matter if we get an EVP or we get a shadow or you feel like you're being touched, we never say that is a ghost. We always say we cannot explain that.
Unexplained.
That's it. But unfortunately, that unexplained pile just getting bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you could, no doubt, you'll be able to tell me exactly which episode. Brandon and Mustafa were talking about infrasound, and the train went past, and Mustafa said, "Yeah, I bet a train's going to come past in a minute."
I was at Grand Victorian Inn.
There you go. I knew you'd be able to do it.
That's when I think Mustafa bet somebody $5 and like.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but that's another thing. The fact that you're talking about something that a lot of people don't understand with infrasound, and a perfect example of what it does and what happened right on camera.
There's been several places we've been to where the location sits right next to a train track or right next to a river or a combination of both. And it seems like that always seems to amp up activity a lot. Especially you got the train, you got the water running at the same time, and especially if you have a storm there as well. We've had a couple, just about the first 3 quarters of season 4, it stormed almost every day.
Wow.
In season 5, we had some massive thunderstorms. I mean, you're talking thunderstorms, tornado watches, everything like that, and it really sets the aesthetic because we film right through it all. You know,
That's
thunder, lightning, and
that's
it's
crazy. Sort of like,
it's
oh
a
yeah,
lot of fun.
there's a tornado watch, but we're okay. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, walk it off.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So for all these locations, do you kind of have like a set period of time on site? Like, is it every location you do 3 days or 5 days? How long do you actually stay on site for each episode?
So it kind of depends. A lot of the locations we'll get there, we'll spend a day doing the interviews and B-roll and stuff like that, and the second day is when we'll do kind of the cast interviews and the investigation. But like when we did rugby, since we did I think 4 locations there, we were locked down there for I think 6 or 7 days. We were in the same locations because we bopped around to so many different houses in that area. And it's a small place. You could actually walk to all the locations, but we all cast and crew all spent the night in these haunted locations because there's a bunch of like Airbnbs there, so you can rent these out and actually go stay there,
Oh, cool.
which is really cool. And that's kind of what we tried to do when we started this series. Is we tried to pick places that weren't as well known in the paranormal world. I mean, we didn't even hit Waverly till season 3, and that's right here in Kentucky with us. But we did
Right on your
mostly,
doorstep. Right on your doorstep, dude.
yeah. But yeah, we didn't hit that till season 3. But we did a lot of places that just weren't as known,
Now,
weren't as investigated, and
yeah.
it really benefited us well, I think.
And you mentioned Waverly and some of the kind of the expectations of Waverly, and like Eloise is another one, that there's so much that people experience. The expectation is there from the get go.
Hmm.
So, do you kind of have the same feeling if you go to a location and you've heard loads of stories, or is it because Waverly and Eloise, for example, are so notorious and so well known that you kind of approach it in a different way and you get a different sensation when you first turn up?
I mean, the place is kind of intimidating when you first see it anyway. But with going into like the history of it and stuff like that, we tried to focus a little bit more on some of the stories that weren't as well known there and not as much as what you hear on every single episode. There's been some locations that we've been to that have been on other shows where we went in and we're able to debunk a lot of the myths that some of the other shows had put out about them. And that's from doing the historical research and actually, referencing like the Sanborn fire maps and stuff like that. And, trying to really dig into the actual stories of the place. But I mean, Waverly, because we filmed uh, season 3 and 4 of Family Spirits there as well. So we spent a significant amount of time at that place. And when we were done, it was, I think that last night, everybody had left and I was there. I was the last one out, just me and the security guard, but he was like down at their building. And I just went and walked through the whole building, every floor, kind of doing a trash sweep by myself just to make sure we didn't leave any trash behind or any equipment. And it was actually comfortable. I didn't feel bad at all. Just walking the hallways with the flashlight, just looking for trash and stuff like that. I mean, every now and then you'd feel like somebody's in a room watching you, but I never felt any negativity walking through the whole place by myself.
Do you believe in the theory that the longer you stay at the location, the more activity there is? Do you think that's a true fact?
I feel like based on some of the locations we've been, the longer we're there, the more the spirits kind of watch and realize that you're there to tell a story and you're not there to, run around like a bunch of chickens with your head cut off and just make up stuff and run around screaming and stuff like that. I think they can sense that. And a lot of times when we go to places and when the owner leaves, they'll be like, hey, so my friends are coming in, talk to them, be nice, treat them good. And it seems like the spirits kind of respond to that as well.
And I couldn't have said that much better, because if I go on an investigation, I always like to kind of go away by myself and have a bit of a wander. And I'm so courteous and so polite when I'm speaking to somebody, and then you get other people coming in. Oh, I'm going to intimidate the spirit, and it's sort of like, oh, I never got anything. Wow, what? I wonder why.
Usually, if they're going to do that, they'll make up what they got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you kind of touched on it a few minutes ago. Have you ever been to any of these locations? You've got a law enforcement background, so you've seen a lot, like I've seen. But did you ever feel like you did not want to be in a location? Did it feel that bad?
So there's one place that I kind of felt like I got pushed out of once, and that was before I started with the series. I actually still lived in LA, and that was at Yuma Prison in Arizona. Going into the dark cell, I felt like I just hit this wall and I could not penetrate it. And then I backed out, waited a few minutes, and then I was just able to walk in. But as of the series, the only place where I feel like I got semi affected by something was episode or season 3. I can't think of the episode number, but it was at a place called the Carrick Parks House in Perryville, Kentucky, which operated partially as a field hospital after the Civil War, after the Battle of Perryville during the Civil War. And that's one where I was in there, and all of a sudden I just felt like dizzy. I was just kind of out of my head a little bit. And she's the one I caught it, and she's like, "Hey, let's step outside for a minute." But that's one place where I've actually felt, a little bit affected by anything that was there.
And it's quite amusing, not in a good way, but that people, just because you get goosebumps on your arms, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You may be feeling something, the energy that's there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that something's malevolent and it's going to affect you.
Right.
But some of these locations, if there is bad energy, like you just said, turn around, walk out, and like regroup, and then give it another shot.
Mm-hmm. I've never been scratched. I think there may only have been one time when I lived in LA that something may have followed me home, but it didn't stay long. It was enough to where I woke up and thought my roommate was walking around in the room, and I actually sat up, and nobody was in there, and I was just like, "Will you stop? I got to be up early." And then it was like quiet the rest of the night. But it's like I woke up twice because I heard something walking around in there, and I thought it was her.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, because in October we did an event with the local radio station, and for all intents and purpose, they were going to stay overnight. They'd got the inflatable mattresses there. They were going to stay. And then we did a few hours investigating with them. Some of the devices that we have actually went off, and it was evident that some kind of energy was there. And after the 2 hours investigating, it was like, nope, deflated the bed. We're out of here. We're not staying the night at all.
Come on, be a team player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take one for the team. So we've mentioned, the places where you felt that you don't want to be. Out of all the episodes, I don't think I've asked you this yet. Do you have a favourite, a place that you'd go back time and time again?
That's hard to narrow down.
So many.
Well, and there's just so much more that I feel like can be learned from these locations. After Brandon purchased the Polk House in Perryville, which used to be a doctor's house and apothecary, and also served as a Civil War hospital after the Battle of Perryville, you're going to see that coming up in season 5, 6, and 7. And we've uncovered a lot of stuff there. Always a place that's good to go back to. I would honestly, there's not a place that I wouldn't go back to, I don't think. And I mean, just as much as anyone that sometimes you'll go to a place and you'll have activity. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes you go back several times and you'll pick up something different each time, or sometimes you may not get anything. I remember the first time we did the Washoe Club in Virginia City, Nevada. We were there for 3 days. The first 2 days, we had absolutely nothing. And the third day, it was like, okay, everything's, like you said earlier, comfortable with us now. We've been
Yeah,
there for a while. And then it's like they decided to come out and play.
yeah, and
But yeah, there's nowhere that we've been to that I would not go back to again. I've had a blast at every location. Still so much more to learn about these places, so much more to look into. And just because you don't catch something one time doesn't mean you're not going to the next.
that's right. Like I say, and if there's residual energy, it may only happen certain times of the year anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you say, there's no guarantee that, as I like to tell people, the entities and spirits are not entertaining monkeys. You can't just clip your fingers and then you get a ghost tap dancing in front of the camera. That's not how it works.
Right.
But they expect that. That's that. You go on these haunted walks and these public events, and that's what they expect. It's sort of like, okay, is everybody ready? Right. Okay, the public are going to come through in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, go. That's not how it works at all.
It's like, show yourself. Who are you to tell me to show myself? Get out of here.
Exactly. Yeah. You wouldn't do that to a like a living person, right? Yeah, Kevin, I want you to like spin round on the spot. It's like, no, I'm not doing it. Okay, it's the same kind of principle, but we have a couple of jails that are close by, and one of them I actually got a stroke on the face, and I love going back to jails because of the notoriety of is that the right word? Notoriety of what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my very first EVPs was in one particular jail, and it's called the Hell's Angel Wing.
Oh.
And I'm going around. I've got my camera and my audio. Didn't hear anything at the time, and then I literally said, if you can make a noise, make a sound, I would very much appreciate that. But on review, I heard a double breath straight after I finished speaking. And people are going, well, it was you breathing. It's like, dude, I've been a paramedic for 13 years. I know what people breathe like. And for me to stop a sentence and then go, straight, it's not me. And I'm lucky enough to have a couple of different people that I can send evidence to. And one guy will actually break it down into voice waves.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll go, okay, this is you. This is the noise. And the two completely different like results. So do you guys do that if you get an EVP as well?
So when we did that private property in Harlan, the end of season 4, that's one where we actually downloaded some stuff into the voice analysis and took a look at what we caught and had it analyzed and stuff like that, which was really interesting. But another thing that I found super interesting is, say you pick up an EVP or something like that, and we're usually double mic'd. We'll have the mic that goes to our sound guy, and then we'll have a backup mic as well. That way, if we get separated from him or we're a place where we lose, connection, we still have a recording. So between the two mics and the boom, and if there's a control camera in the room, that's got audio. So you figure 4 mics in there. You pick up an EVP, but only one mic picks it up. And it's like, okay, so that tells me that was nobody said that because nothing else. I mean, these mics are super sensitive. Nothing else picked it up. This one specific mic did. And there's been a few times where we've actually heard stuff, with our ears, and it's also picked up on the cameras as well.
Yeah, and I've actually got evidence of both kind of examples that you've had, and I love it when you talk to somebody. Oh yeah, what did you do at the weekend? Oh, I went and sat in the dark for 8 hours talking to myself, and then they go, why? Oh, because you're a paranormal investigator, and then they go, oh, that's all BS. Well, why is it all BS? Oh, it doesn't exist. Well, how do you know? Have you got the evidence?
And they've never been out and investigated it before in their life.
Exactly, yeah. So I go, okay, I've got some EVPs on my phone. Have a listen to these, and I want 100% explanation. But they go, well, it's you breathing. Well, no, it's not. And then there was another one in the same location, and it's like, well, what was that? And, well, it must have been a car. Dude, you're in a concrete building. The nearest road's like 100 meters away. It's not a car. So what is it? Well, I don't know. Well, there you go. That's the objective of the exercise.
Mm-hmm.
To get
somebody whispered behind the camera. Yeah, nobody was behind the camera.
Yeah,
But it's like a lot of people that have that big an opinion have never been on an investigation. They don't know anything about it. But the first time that they go and actually experience something, then it kind of it changes you.
For sure. And yeah, the experiences that I've probably had over the last 18 months, for people to say it doesn't exist, I've got enough unexplained evidence to go, well, actually, this is the evidence I've got that I can't explain. And the more you go out and the more frequently you go to the locations, like we've mentioned, potentially the more evidence you're going to get. So, the pile's going to get bigger and bigger of stuff that you can't explain, and that's the fun reason of why we do this, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's like, what can I capture that there's no way I can explain it? Show it to 10 other people, none of them can explain it. That's what you want to get.
That's it. And I know Brandon will probably like roll in his sleep when I tell him this next bit, but we actually tested a Ouija board. But what we did, because like you guys will test stuff, we actually had the operators blindfolded to see what would happen. And then we had a couple of people doing the Estes method at the same time. Nothing really happened on the Ouija board apart from one of the guys, there was 3 guys doing it, became extremely emotional for no apparent reason. And then one of the other girls sat behind him, started to cry. But was it because of the words that they were hearing? Well, not the guy that was doing the Ouija board. We can't explain why he got extremely emotional. But for the girl, yes, she was hearing the ghost box going, but then she couldn't explain any reason why she got emotional. So, would you say that was paranormal, or was it just the energy that was in the room at the time? You can't say for definite what it was.
Right.
But it goes on that pile again.
Now, on one the next couple seasons of Family Spirits comes out, that's one you should really watch, because we when we're interviewing the people, we actually monitor the environment, and it turned out some pretty interesting results. But that's one thing we try to do with some of our equipment, is we try to get a lot of things that's not necessarily made for paranormal investigating. We have the EMCCD camera. As far as our environmental data loggers, they're Kestrel devices that I actually contacted the National Weather Service, and it's what they recommended. And so we're using stuff that like they use out in the field. And so it's, I don't want stuff that's what some people would refer to, I guess, as garage tech.
Yeah.
Now the tripwire and the Paralight and stuff like that, that stuff seems to be pretty credible, I would say, when you can compare it to, or when you can get a lot of the same readings on different things at the same time. One thing I like about the tripwire is each one of those little lights is on its own individual sensor.
Yeah.
And then, I know with the Paralight, I know a walkie can set it off, which anytime that's ever happened, we always mark it. It was like, that was the walkie. We did that. That's nothing paranormal. Yes, it went off. That was from the walkie. But we're very mindful of that type of stuff when we're investigating.
Yeah. And I know Brandon's going to cringe again, but we use cat balls, but we don't use them in the way that normal people do. We actually have a vibration device that you put it on a table, you bang it, and it lights up. So we put a cat ball on top of it, so that if you bang the table, both of them should light up. But if only one lights up, whether it be the top or the bottom one, and the other one doesn't, then you've got something to investigate, rather than just put a cat ball on the floor and kick it down the corridor, and you just get the pretty lights going down the corridor, which I've seen happen. So the stuff that we use, like you say, we actually try to use it in the correct way. A lot of my stuff is stuff that is used in construction. Like I've got like a stud wall for checking for cables. I use a tri-field. I've got a carbon monoxide detector. I've got a green mold. I've got a black mold detector.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through all those kind of things. Obviously, when you go into a public building, it's a little bit more sensitive. If you, oh, by the way, your public building's got black mold. They don't like that kind of thing. But we try to rule out everything of a natural phenomena that we can before we actually go down is this paranormal?
Now, on our episode of Waverly, we actually caught a light anomaly on the EMCCD camera, and you watch in the hallway, and it actually trips I think it might have been a Paralight or the EDI Plus we had sitting there. It hit EMF on that, and then the environmental data logger was sitting beside it, and it also threw that magnetic compass off like 10 degrees. So all three of those things happened at the same time, and you actually watched the ball on screen, which is I thought was pretty interesting.
And that's a good thing, to get multiple devices picking up at different things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the objective of the exercise. Like that went off, but it went off in isolation. But if you've got 2 or 3 devices, and there's plenty of these bells and whistle devices out there that people think are the most wonderful thing on the planet, let's not get involved. But like I mentioned about the vibration device and the cat ball, you're using multiple devices to get to the same objective. And if something does happen, like I say, it's something to investigate further.
Mm-hmm. And we did have a guy, an engineer, Curtis Maloney. He built us an APL, which he calls the Atmospheric Phenomenon Logger, and it measures temperature, humidity, pressure, EMF, vibration, and motion, and it graphs it live on the screen as well. And you can actually Bluetooth it to your monitor, and you can monitor it live time as well while you have it sitting like on a tripod in the hallway. You can sit back and monitor it from a nerve center and watch the graphs, and it records it to a card that you can download and analyze as well.
That's pretty cool. My birthday's in June, so if you want to start saving to get me one, go right ahead. So we are unfortunately coming towards the end. It's almost been an hour. You wouldn't think so.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So without telling me too much, because I know working in your business, you can't tell me everything. What's next for you guys?
Right now, it's a lot of just catch up. We still have season 5 to complete the edit on. We still have season 6 and 7. And so right now it's playing catch up.
So,
because we filmed season 4. No, we filmed season 5 early last year. And once we finished that, we had to finish editing Family Spirits. Then once that edit was done, we started on 5, but then went on the road to film season 6 and 7. And so it was a busy year last year. So now it's like, give us a minute. We got to catch our breath. We got a lot of catch up to do.
So I think you should have a team meeting tomorrow to say that there's been an offer for a international location, and then come over the border.
Ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do this.
I've never been up there, so I'm ready for the trip.
In fact, call him right now. It's like, Brandon, yeah, Lee said. I'm sure he'd love it. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. You've given us a great insight into haunted discoveries. And like I've said, Brandon's not off the hook. Please feel free to tell him. But for now, I thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, like I've said. And don't be a stranger, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. It's been fun. Appreciate you having me on. And, anybody that's watching, keep documenting.
That's the key. Thanks, my friend. You take care.
Sure. Uh-huh.
Goodbye.